You know that nasty feeling when you finish watching a season of some really cool series, only to discover it's discontinued, and you'll never see the story resolved? It happened plenty to me. Some of my favorite series, like My Name is Earl, have been discontinued for no apparent reason despite being pretty successful. There are IPs like Berserk that feel like they'll never receive a proper good adaptation. But there are also some pretty crazy cases like Twin Peaks that got a resolution to its cliffhanger ending after 25 years. But was it even a resolution? There is a series that I love to the core of my being that had a single killer of a season, and might never receive another one, and I want to talk about it, because it's still not that old, and there's a slight glimmer of hope it might get picked up again, eventually, especially if there's enough demand. I'm talking about none other than Dorohedoro. It feels a bit odd to stray from video games to talk about TV shows. Anime of all things especially, since I'm normally not a fan. But Dorohedoro is a massive exception. And I know, good 90% of anime straight up sucks. It tends to have annoying characters, terrible pacing, half-baked plots, yada yada yada, but bear with me, I promise this will be good. Dorohedoro has an amazing style, a phenomenal cast of characters, and none of those annoying anime cliches. It's basically a proper show with a great plot that wouldn't be possible with the restrictions of live-action cinematography. In fact, it barely has any restrictions at all. It's one of the craziest shows you can witness. But let's take it down a notch and begin with talking about what Dorohedoro even is. Originally, Dorohedoro is a manga, written and illustrated by the wonderful Q Hayashide. Not much is known about her, not even her real name or face. There are only bits of information coming from interviews, such as her originally being terrible at art, but that has sort of evolved into her strikingly messy yet detailed art style, which makes Dorohedoro a wonderful read. The title Dorohedoro is pretty fitting to that, roughly translating to mud to sludge. I'll try being as spoiler-free as possible in this video, but I just have to introduce the setting and some of the main characters. The world of Dorohedoro is bonkers. Imagine Harry Potter. There are separate realms for sorcerers and non-sorcerers, and they're not exactly friendly, right? Dorohedoro has something similar to that, but a lot more metal, and with none of that teen drama. There's the non-magic realm called Hole, which is nearly post-apocalyptic. What we see of it is dirty and rusty industrial cityscapes, full of criminals and occasionally some zombies. Meanwhile, the magic realm has all sorts of wonderful things, but it is actively at war with the Hole's inhabitants, using them as training dummies for spells, and the magic itself is powered by the motherfucking Satan! The main character is a dude with a lizard head named Kaiman. And the driving force of the story is the mystery of how Kaiman got his lizard head, why he has no memories, and why the heck there is a ghost inside his mouth. The ghost seems to tell whoever gets into Kaiman's mouth whether it's the person who killed him or not, so Kaiman partnered up with the charming Nikaido in the search for answers, hunting and chomping heads off every wizard he meets. And you know how I said Kaiman is the main character? Well, I sorta lied. Protagonists are usually the more morally correct characters in series and get the most screen time, yet that's not the case with Kaiman. Right from the first episode, he reveals himself not to be a goody two-shoes by biting a girl's face off, leaving her mentally crippled for the rest of her life. Also at first, wizards sound like the villains of the story, but they get just as much attention and have equally justifiable, or not, motivations. There's Fujita, who wants revenge on Kaiman for killing his best friend. There's the Shin and Noi duo were some of the top wizards and work as cleaners, and the cruel big boss of wizards, N, with the power to turn anything into mushrooms. Yet even he turns out to be a pretty damn cool dude. Aside from some minor characters, there is also the Cross-Eye Gang in the Wizard realm, who are people incapable of magic. Therefore, they're shunned in their world and partake in criminal activities to fight off wizards and make a living. After all, the Wizard realm isn't all that pretty either, because a wizard's power is predetermined from their birth. So some would be unjustly superior, and the weaker ones would be left at the bottom of the society. All the factions have just motivations while performing some cruel deeds, and the main thing is that all of them are actually likable. There isn't anyone who could be singled out as the most important character. All the factions are likable, and the character dynamics entertaining. Dorohedoro actually makes it hard for me to be able to root for anyone. Something like Game of Thrones would have a similar effect, but that would be because all the characters would seem like terrible people, and the few who would be somewhat likable would get killed off, so I wouldn't have anyone to root for. In Dorohedoro, it's the opposite. All the characters are likable, and I would want all of them to succeed. Even the ones who are introduced as antagonists at first, because even they would turn out to have charming personalities and interesting backstories. The whole thing is presented in an absolutely phenomenal fashion too. The manga is already top tier. The art direction is very unique, somewhat rough, but couldn't be more fitting for the gritty, industrial setting and punk storytelling. The manga itself already has a soundtrack commissioned from some of Q's favorite musicians, including Igor. That's been one of my absolute favorite music projects since before I even knew of Dorohedoro. What a crossover! The sound is a perfect blend of industrial, breakcore, dub, synthwave and punk. To be honest, black metal would fit in there perfectly just as well. The character designs are absolutely lovely, and the environment itself is very detailed, creating a very immersive atmosphere. It's really gritty and gory, yet hilarious at the same time. I absolutely love the little devil shack with the inverted cross floating about Wizard City, the industrial slums and the satanic undertones, the surreal wackiness of it all. My one complaint is the amount of nudity. It's fairly common for manga and anime to have shameless, untasteful fanservice, but that's not my problem here. Can't really blame this for misogyny or something like that. The author is a woman herself, and most of the nudity in this isn't explicitly sexual and makes sense in the context. It's just that it's always women getting naked. I need a man butt. Gender equality, yo! The manga is already a high bar to match up to, but the anime nails it. They had to omit the signature dirty line work, but kept all the details. I was actually amazed by how detailed the backgrounds are for simple series. Some 3D elements are incorporated into the animation, which is rarely a good sign in anime, but it barely ever detracts from its quality. If anything, the animation feels very fluid and dynamic. Despite the manga having a great soundtrack already, they made a new soundtrack for the series and it's just as good too. Right from episode 1 I was so hooked, and I binged the whole 12 episode season in maybe a day, and then proceeded to read the manga, because I just had to know how it continues. It's not a long anime, but it's very well paced. It has tons of things happening in every single episode, and is very faithful to the source material. The whole time, it just felt like exactly my kind of vibe. The whole setting is extremely punk. It has no boundaries when it comes to either the designs or the storytelling. The whole story is very captivating too. I just love dark mysteries, and this comes with a good bit of dark humor too. Even the tiny anime-specific bits like the credit sequences would be entertaining with some great tunes, Dorohedoro-themed Doom-like mock-ups, or the one and only, the magnificent Dancing Mushroom. But I should slow down with the fanboying for a bit. If the show is so great, how come there's no season 2? Well, there are a couple of reasons. Dorohedoro is animated by Studio Mappa, previously of Yuri on Ice fame. I have nothing bad to say about the studio, as they've earned my immense respect after their adaptation of Dorohedoro, But the problem is that they might have earned the respect of many others, because since then, they've received a lot of heavy-hitter IPs to animate. They recently did Chainsaw Man, which is fairly close to Dorohedoro, but I still like Dorohedoro way better. Yet Chainsaw Man, for whatever reason, is way more popular of the two. They took over for Vinland Saga Season 2, which is also a great series. They did Jujutsu Kaisen, and while I know nothing about that one, I hear it's popular, and they have also taken over for Attack on Titan the final season, and then the final season 2, and then the final season 3. God's sake, how many final seasons are there? Piss off with them Titans, and give me the funny lizard, dude. As you can tell, all the IPs I mentioned that Mappa has been animating since Dorohedoro are arguably more popular. Therefore, they would make the logical decision to continue working on those moneymakers, leaving no workforce for Dorohedoro. Apparently another issue is that Dorohedoro was aired on Netflix. I personally have no problem with that, and from what I hear, the series did well internationally and received good reviews. But Netflix isn't as popular of a streaming service for anime in Japan, so in turn the series didn't receive all that much attention domestically, at least in comparison, and sold DVDs poorly and that kind of stuff. And from what I get, the sales in Japan are the thing that really matters. I want to believe there is still hope though, and that's the point of me making this video. It's been a couple of years since the first season already, and no news about the second. But I think there's still chance something might happen if the first season turns out to have enough of a fanbase, creating more demand for a continuation. Part of why the pacing of the first season was so great is because the manga is already finished. There's no need to wait for new chapters or clutter the anime with filler episodes. It has plenty of great material for another season or two, and by then the story could be completed. Dorohedoro isn't long enough to require 800 episodes to see its resolution. It's a quick-paced story and doesn't require a crazy amount of time, and I think just 1 or 2 more seasons are fairly realistic to achieve. We could still see this through, without the anime actually getting cancelled before its end. Dorohedoro had become my uncontested #1 manga/anime, maybe even TV series overall, so I hope that my description of it is enough to get at least a couple of you to watch it. I've won my satanic wizards, dammit! I've won my Gyoza fairy, giant cockroach, and throat ghost, for this is Dorohedoro. Thank you for hearing me out, and see you in another video.